All right, so looking the other direction now, there's the yard limit at Sargent again. Wrapping around here and trying to give you a feel for the yard at Sargent. Most of the tracks that were there are represented here. We do see 499 waiting to do something, help train, move a train, but currently idle. But behind the 499, where the flanger OG sitting, that's going to be the lead for the coaling tower, and just kind of laid out as far as that structure will go. It's not going to be to scale. It's going to be compressed, but definitely I had to find a way to add that structure, and that's where it's going to reside, as it did on the prototype. A couple long sidings, well, actually a long siding in Sargent. You can kind of see the crossover about midway. There was a double crossover, but I just chose to do one. And then the track in the foreground, again, just an additional storage track. We currently see 487 and a dead 473 occupying this track. I do have this kind of temporary protecting wall up. That's going to be changed out with probably plexiglass or something that's see-through. But just taking precautions and don't want anything to take a leap. But we see a few cars here in Sargent, and the water tank, the depot, a couple little bunkhouses here, a little coal bunker, and then obviously the Y. Scratch built the bridge here that spans Marshall Creek here in Sargent. It's a fun little project, and really just built it with scraps and spare wood that I had. So really kind of pleased with how it turned out. And looking from the west end of Sargent, looking east towards Marshall Pass, you can kind of see the depth and length of the yard. It's almost 24 feet, pretty close to it. So it's a pretty significant, substantial yard with a lot of space. But for the layout, I wanted to make sure that I had good operational capabilities here in Sargent, and then a long run from Sargent to Marshall Pass. And you can see again where that shelf has been dropped down, and it won't extend quite as far as you see it right now, but probably a little bit just before the water tank is where that'll terminate, and then Marshall Pass will reside over this section. As we leave Sargent on the way to Gunnison, you just move into some of that transition area, which was relatively a flat, run, pretty straight between Sargent and Gunnison. I do temporarily have the scratch-built turntable for Marshall Pass sitting over here. This was a really fun project. So just kind of waiting to get Marshall Pass back in place and get this reinstalled. Again, you can kind of see way up there, that's where it used to be until I tore it out and dropped it down. As a side note, while we're here, I currently have a couple showcase system modules that a friend of mine designed, Jeff Ringley at Old Iron Designs. So I thought I'd just show this real quick because it's a really cool concept. The legs aren't on it, so I just have it sitting on the floor. But you can kind of see that it's a really neat module design for you to design and kind of build a layout or a module. So my goal here is I have these two sections, and I have one more straight section. And the plan is that a group of us that have some of these modules are going to do a kind of a group module for narrow gauge convention or other railroad shows that are out there. And we're thinking of kind of having a chili line focus, so it should be fun. But just wanted to show that because it is a pretty neat idea. It's just a really cool lightweight module system that can easily be dismantled and moved, and just give you a nice opportunity to build a really nice stable module. Okay, we jump back up. Still traveling towards Gunnison. See a scratch-built bridge here over Tamichi Creek. It's very common between Sargent and Gunnison. Many little bridges. Tamichi Creek was a very meandering stream, so to speak. So small representation in this area. There'll be grasslands and just kind of wide open space. But you can see here where the line enters, the Gunnison Yard. Had a glimpse of this in the earlier portion of the video. Passing track here, and then a long siding here in the back. That'll be used for staging outbound trains. And it's also the lead. Once we get down here, you can see over there to the car shop building. And then at the end of that, there's also going to be maintenance away car storage, where you see a few of the maintenance away cars residing right now. In Gunnison, I will have a few industries represented. You see here, there's going to be a warehouse building here. Built a little kind of a deck platform here. Not sure what I'm going to name it yet, but I will finish that off and make this part of this scene. At the tail end of this track where the warehouse sits, currently where this passenger car is sitting, I'm going to make a oil tank, Texaco, Conoco, oil dock here. So the oil cars will eventually be staged here for operational purposes. Glance over this way, we see wedge plow 09271. Probably sit there until it's needed. I will be modeling a section in between Shawano and Marshall Pass with snow, so I have justification to run a couple rotaries that I'm going to end up having, and the wedge plow and some flanger trains. So definitely want to do winter operations. You also see a spreader OV back there, which was also used for snow operations. This rotary will be rotary ON. Eventually that will reside and work the Salida to Marshall Pass end. And I currently have a rotary OO under construction, which will serve the western side. See a out of service box car here, needs some work. We see a crazy white pass in Yukon. Not sure where that car came from or why it's here, but it's here, and I'm sure we'll make some appearances throughout the line here. See 493 sitting here, just finishing up some builds on a few cars. Have a string of gondolas here that I've painted and detailed, and they're ready for decals. So the three behind 493 are done pretty much. And then these other five, I still have a little bit of work to do and get them decaled. Not sure where these structures are ultimately going to go, but they're just going to sit here in Gunnison for now. I was really pleased with how the paint on this Gone and this boxcar turned out. Believe it or not, I used a rattle can, spray bombed them. Used Krylon, it's a gloss paint, Banner Red, and then I came back and did several layers of washes using acrylics, just basic acrylic paint you can get at Michael's, and really kind of added some color and some texture, and I think they turned out great. And then obviously when you put the decals on, it makes it pop a little bit, so it's interesting. You can see the difference between one that's just freshly painted, not weathered, in relation to these two here. But as we continue around to this section of the Gunnison Yard, again, you can kind of see the other side where we were a few minutes ago. This is the back side of the car shops, the lead to the coal tower. Receiving pocket back there. See Conoco 10 and 11 sitting here. Not sure if I'm going to keep those, but definitely interesting cars. Did a little bit of scenery and just some detailing kind of in the coal tower receiving pit and area, and the lead track up to it, just to kind of get a feel for what I could do and how it would look. And pretty pleased with how that turned out so far. You can kind of see over there, it's just pink foam that I shaped and secured in place, and then came back and added some of the cinders there. We turn this way, we see the far west end of the Gunnison Yard and the turntable lead here, and ultimately where the roundhouse will reside there in the background. Looking back the other direction from where we were just a minute ago, and you can see again the roundhouse lead tracks there. The turntable. This turntable was scratch built. I used two 65-foot bridges, cut them into pieces, had a middle section and two end sections to create the 80-foot turntable that was in Gunnison. The pit, I used individual pieces of wood and wood glue, and glued every single one of those in place to create the pit wall there. So definitely a tedious process, but pretty fulfilling. This turntable is a manual, so it's finger operated, and you can kind of see I have a Lazy Susan bearing down there, which allows me to turn the table, and it spins really freely and really operates like the prototype. You have to have the locomotives balanced in order for it to work properly. So it's very, very close to the prototype there. And then you can see where the roundhouse will ultimately reside here. Several locomotives here. I kind of have some red lines kind of drawing where the roundhouse walls will be, just to kind of give you an idea of the size of the structure. This started out as a 4-foot by 4-foot square piece of plywood that I have shaped into the roundhouse. Just give you another backside view here. All right, we're finishing up the tour here. You can see, again, the red line there representing where the roundhouse wall is going to be. The first stall didn't have tracks in it. It was actually kind of like a shop area. I've learned that there's also lockers and just an open space within the roundhouse. So that's what's represented here. And again, in relation to the layout, if you look below it, you have the Salida, roundhouse turntable. And where we started the tour, you see 479 sitting there in the new narrow gauge portion of the roundhouse. When we finish up, kind of look at the Gunnison area from the other side. We see the ash pit. And I did completely scratch build. This ash pit had some help from a few friends. Glenn Farley, somebody who's been a valuable resource, for my modeling and just information on, some things on the 3rd Division and Gunnison in particular. Actually provided me those little footers there for the bottom of the ash pit here. So those are actually prototypical to what you would have seen at the Gunnison ash pit, and utilize those as a base for my build. So very happy with how this turned out. I know the lighting's not great. All that will change once I get some balances up and some of the LEDs in place. But you can kind of see over to the right here, we got the plywood base, and we got the foam, and then the cork sits on top of that, and that's pretty consistent for what I've got across the entire layout. We're kind of back at the coal tower, a little different view of the receiving pit here and the backside. And we pan over this way, and you can see some of the other side of the Gunnison Yard here. Just to end things off, so one of my kids has a interest in narrow gauge, and this is his ON30 creation. His design, this is how he wanted his 10-wheeler to look. I think it turned out pretty cool, but keeping true to the operations here, it is radio controlled, battery powered, with air wire and a tsunami decoder. And then we see a small collection of his rolling stock at this point. Just a few cars, but we're debating on potentially doing some ON30 with an outdoor layout. So stay tuned. All right, I think we're going to end the tour. I hope you've enjoyed the update, and I'll keep posting updates and photos, and I do appreciate all the support and kind words that many people have sent my way. So it definitely keeps me motivated and keeps things definitely fun. But a lot going on in here, big project, and looking forward to sharing more real soon. Thanks.